I'm John, and I'm going to just talk about how the transfer portal is affecting college sports and how it needs to change. So I'm briefly going to talk about the introduction of it, and then provide some counter arguments or pros, and then rebuttal to that, and then finally my proposal. So this is just a brief intro. The transfer portal in NIL gives college athletes the opportunity to make money while in college and basically create a brand for themselves. And with the expansion of the transfer portal, schools are now able to pick up athletes using their money provided by the school. And then here are the issues I have with the current system. Small schools are losing their top tier players to bigger schools because they typically cannot match offers made by programs with the most money to spend, and even when they can match the offers, sometimes it's not as enticing because they don't get the television or broadcasting to make a name for themselves. And then another issue I have is athletes are transferring multiple years in a row, and some athletes are spending their years of college at 3+ schools. An example of that was Dylan Gabriel, who was a quarterback for Oregon this past season. And then an issue I had with the portal in college basketball this year was that the fact that the portal ended before the national championship game, and we saw some people transferring immediately after their games. And then this is an article by Yahoo Sports, just the teams with the highest NIL. And this was for college basketball, and all but one of these teams made the tournament, and all of the Elite Eight are in this group. And then here's a counter argument about a good thing the portal has brought, which is an opportunity for athletes to get a second chance or just make a bigger name for themselves. A big example of that was Dalton Connect last season. He started his career at Northern Colorado, and not many people had heard of him, but he transferred to Tennessee, had a big year, ended up getting drafted by the Lakers, and has played some pretty decent minutes for them this year. And then this is my rebuttal to that. And while the portal has brought great success stories to many athletes, the schools that don't have great spending money or are not nationally televised are taking a decline and are not being as successful as seen prior to the portal's expansion. And then high school recruiting and just overall roster building is becoming less important. And this was a quote from the basketball coach of St. John's saying he's not recruiting any high school players, and I personally just think that's unfair to high school players looking for an opportunity. And then another example of an athlete that has kind of abused the portal in a way is AJ Storr, who is just recently transferred to Ole Miss, which will be his 4th school in 4 years. And then here's my proposal to how to change it. Athletes must stay to college for at least 2 years before transferring, which would be a maximum of 2 transfers if they were to be in college for 4 years. And then I would implement a cap on how much teams can spend in the portal, much like the NFL and NBA have. And in conclusion, while the portal has some pros, it is overall leading to the death of Cinderella stories and the ability for non-power conference teams to have sustained success. And then a way to change it, just a salary cap.